the husband.
Hello, welcome to another edition of with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national and political landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Fear Grips APC members as panel disqualifies 10 presidential aspirants. And later in the show, we'll x-ray some of the reasons why APC risks losing 2023 election. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Thank you so much for being here today again, BKO.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So let's begin with our first term discussion, which is borders on the APC primary. There seems to be possible fear among the All Progressives Congress presidential aspirants following the screening list submitted by committee to the party chairman. Now, 13 aspirants out of 23 made the list. People are of the opinion that there was actually no reason to keep the names of aspirants who made the list close to their chest if there's nothing the party was hiding, anything. Is there no rationale behind doing this?
Well, I really can't explain why the APC leadership does some of the things that they do. I read the papers that Chief John Odigio Yegun said that some people had been screened out, and they were screened out on account of age, that they wanted youthfulness. But as we have seen from the list of those cleared that I've been privileged to see, they were among the oldest out of the 23-man list. The people cleared were among the oldest. So I really don't get it. If you go to the press and you said that age, the desire to ensure that whoever emerges the winner is a youthful person, was one of the principles guiding you in the course of screening these persons. Then how come 73-year-olds, 70-year-olds were on the list? So I really don't get it. There are many things that they have done that left or that leaves many questions unanswered. Why, for example, did you not come up with an age ceiling? If you are looking for young people, why didn't you come up with an age ceiling? 2, why did you continue to sell forms when it was clear that it was already a crowd that would be difficult for you to manage? Why did you continue to sell forms to aspirants? Now, the party wants the leadership, the screening committee wants the leadership of the party to speak with the aspirants and try to achieve a sort of consensus candidate. The whole idea of a consensus candidate is a ridiculous one. It's an attempt to find someone that the president especially wants, and not a person that the generality of the voting delegates want. I don't think that the choice of a flag bearer for the APC should be left to the president and governors alone. If it's left to the president and governors alone, then it is not democracy. It is not democracy. The guidelines must be followed, properly followed. The voting delegates should be allowed to vote the candidate of their choice, not necessarily the candidate of the choice of the president. There is no reason in the world to believe that because someone is the president's choice, that person will make a good president. There is no reason to believe that the president is always right. In fact, our circumstances as a country has shown us now that the president is not always right. So this shouldn't be narrowed down to somebody that the president wants. This notion that the African leaders have, that they must produce their successors, is an archaic, is an antiquated idea. The people reserve the right to vote who they think will best serve them. And the person that they believe will best serve them may not necessarily be a fan of the president, or may not necessarily be someone that the president wants. The APC has been struggling and struggling to manipulate the process. And that is why it has taken them this long to organize their presidential convention. They've had to wait for the opposition, seizing the initiative from the opposition, copying the opposition, you know. So right now they've run out of time. There's nowhere to go. They just must find a standard bearer within the next couple of days. Otherwise, they'll be playing with fire.
Okay, BKO, yeah, sorry, just with one or two things here. When looking at the composition of the delegates that will elect the presidential candidate of the APC, still remains a subject of controversy as the Federal High Court in Kano State on Friday ruled that Section 84 of the Electoral Act did not prevent statutory delegates from voting. So what dimension would this bring to the mix?
Well, thanks to the incompetence of the Senate President and his colleagues, they have succeeded in disenfranchising themselves. I mean, federal lawmakers, they were hunting for governors. They were looking to cage governors, but they ended up caging themselves because they left a very important portion of the electoral law that should have been passed. They left it unpassed. And the president clearly still angry that the National Assembly didn't do its bidding by removing Section 84, subsection 12 of the electoral law after the president passed it. The president then decided that he would not do their bidding. They had made a mistake. They quickly called for the law and then re-amended the law, but the president refused to give his assent. So it is thanks to the incompetence of Lawan and others that we have this situation. There's no senator who will vote. Even Lawan, who wants to be president of Nigeria, will not be able to vote for himself. And a good number of his colleagues who will have fancied his chances. Remember that the Committee of Speakers even endorsed the Senate President. But at the end of the day, all the endorsement will amount to nothing because they won't be able to cast their ballots in his favor because they failed to do the needful. How could 109 members in the Senate and 260 members in the House of Reps have allowed such a thing to elude them, to the point that they then disenfranchise themselves from voting at the elective primaries, from the primaries of the party leading to the presidential primary. So naturally, with more people participating, it could open the door, it could provide the chance for some individual aspirants to do well or possibly win the presidential primaries. But the way it is now, APC would have to conduct these primaries with less than 3,000 delegates. If that had not been the case, more than double that number would have been involved in voting to elect the standard bearer of the party. But they've effectively succeeded in disenfranchised more than half of the people who ordinarily should have been part of the voting process. So this is where we are. I would have loved to see that portion amended by the president, and so that more people can be part of the process. But it is what it is. The president chose to ignore the National Assembly. He taught them a lesson. But if I were the president, I would have signed it, because this is a National Assembly that has been extremely cooperative with the president, granting him nearly everything that is ever asked them for. All of the loans that the president asked for, they granted, even against public opinion in our country. So if I were the president, I would have gone ahead to sign that amendment. But in a vindictive manner, the president refused to grant, the wish of the lawmakers to have Section 84 amended. But that's what it is. They have to live with it.
Right. Right. Oh, well, Senator Okorocha, in one of his outings, said that Southwest candidate for the APC is best for 2023 elections, as picking a candidate from the South could neutralize PDP's idea of equity and justice. Do you see this as a good strategy for the party if they decide to go to the South to pick their candidate?
The fact really is that the two parties are not looking at equity at this time. They are more concerned about who can win. And as the PDP, as one of the PDP leaders said, we need to grab power first before we begin to share it. So they would rather win by any means possible before thinking of anything. So for them, victory is all that matters. And even now, the APC, I do not see the APC going that route. The APC would want to do whatever it takes to defeat the PDP candidate, Abubakar Atiku. The victory recorded by Abubakar Atiku has changed the dynamics significantly. Many people, including me, expected Governor Wike of Rivers State to win, because he had clearly worked hard, visiting the different chapters of the party across the states. But the last-minute decision of the Sokoto state governor to step down and direct his delegates to vote for Atiku gave Atiku something in the realm of 178 votes, which he needed to overtake his nearest challenger. That's Governor Wike. So the way it is, I know that the APC, which had never been popular in the Southeast, would be looking beyond the Southeast for its presidential candidates. I'm sure they would think that if they pick someone for the Southeast, that they are not likely to win. I am worried about the unity of our country. I think that since 1999, the Southeast has not produced the president of our country. They also not even produced the vice president. That has to change. If it will change at this time, that will be fine. But I cannot bet that the APC would pick a presidential candidate from the Southeast. If they would do it, that will be very fine. It will serve the cause of equity, serve the cause of justice, and help cement our union as a country. But I'm not sure that will happen, and I will never bet in favor of that happening.
Right. So with what we have seen so far, it does appear that Southwest always finds it difficult to rally together until they lose out and then come back to lick their wounds. I bet there will be a meeting on the Southwest Aspirants tonight as former Governor Shobal President. What do you look forward to hearing?
What do I look forward to hearing about what?
About the Southwest Southwest presidential aspirants who are going to be meeting together today. They're going to be having a meeting together today, according to grapevines, from the grapevines that the presidential aspirants from the APC will be meeting tonight at Babajide. What do you expect to see? Because what I said earlier was that it's very difficult. We know that Yoruba elders, they find it always very difficult to come to a round table when it comes to issues of elections such as this.
And the ideal situation would have been for them to come together and vote for, pick one or two persons, reduce the number through some form of shadow election, because there are too many. But with the shadow election, you can then have a situation in which 2 or 3 persons eventually contest, stepping down for those who are stronger than them. But some of the candidates, some of the aspirants that I've seen from the Southwest, and the kind of comments that they have made will suggest to me that the meeting may achieve nothing at the end of the day. When they had a meeting the other day and they said that the meeting agreed that everyone should be allowed to contest, I felt like I was reading a story about a bunch of very selfish individuals. You can, what was the essence of the meeting if one of the decisions that you reached was that everybody should be allowed to contest? It's just not going to work. You can't have everybody contesting. There ought to be some form of shadow election that will now help to reduce the number of aspirants. There are people on that list who cannot win the awards. Even an election on their street, some of them will not win. Yet they want to be president of Nigeria. They want to become the standard bearer of the APC. They know that they are not going to win. But a lot of them are merely using this as a means of bargaining ahead of 2023. Just as Senator Okorocha said. And it's really sad that by their own efforts, they are going to weaken the chances of other people. So I expect that at this sort of meeting, I mean, if the Yoruba leadership still remains strong, relevant, and committed to the interest of the Yoruba race, I will expect that during this meeting, they will come to some form of agreement that will reduce the number of people contesting, that will ensure that some of them will step out of the race. You know, that way, we will have a decent contest on our hands, and somebody from the Southwest zone will have a good chance of winning. But with so many of them in the race and not planning to step down for one another, it makes it difficult. Some of them think that they are going to be consensus, the consensus choice at the end of the day. I don't know who is talking to them, but I know some people among the aspirants who are too weak to win an election, who are not popular enough to win even a local government election, yet they want to contest for the presidency. It can only be because they are using it as a bargaining chip. They are using it to bargain. They are using it to lobby for something ahead of 2023. Or it could well be that some of them have been promised by a cabal in the presidency that they will become the standard bearer of the party. But all of these things, you cannot bet on these things, because the person promising you is not the voter. And the law is clear that if consensus is to be agreed upon, then every aspirant must put it in writing that they agree to a consensus. Otherwise, it becomes a flat-out contest. For me, it's a flat-out contest that I want to see. I want to see a flat-out contest. I don't buy this consensus thing. It's just an attempt to rob some of the very strong candidates from the chances. I mean, rob them of the opportunity to win. So let the people contest. Let them contest against one another.
Right. Right. So let's talk about why the party risks losing in the 2023 election. What are the indications for you, considering the antics playing out with the party?
If the party, due to the selfish interests of some individuals in the corridors of power, pick an unpopular candidate, there will be mass defections. And those mass defections will strengthen Atiku's chances. The crisis, the crisis in the APC across different chapters are already bad enough. So if the party cannot organize a healthy and rancor-free presidential primaries, then they should forget about 2023, because they are going to be defeated, and they are going to be well defeated. Atiku, contesting against the president, lost the election by less than 4 million votes. Atiku won 17 states. If you add Abuja to it, it becomes 18 states. To the president's 19. So that should tell you how formidable Atiku is. So if he could run an incumbent president ragged, if he could push an incumbent president all the way, winning almost the same number of states as the incumbent president, then one should know that with the president not being on the ballot, it will be a very difficult battle for the APC. But if the party knows what it is doing, this is the time to find a candidate who can defeat the PDP candidate. Not just anybody can defeat Atiku. Only about 2 persons on that list can defeat Atiku. So if you fail to pick from one of the 2, and you pick just anyone else, then you should expect to lose the election. It's a very easy thing to predict, because already the government is not doing particularly well across many parameters. The economy is not doing well. The currency is sliding in disgraceful fashion. Our security has never been this bad. So the APC already has so many problems on its hands, making it difficult to convince many Nigerians that it should be allowed to continue in power. And then you have all kinds of problems. And then you are trying to manipulate your presidential primaries to ensure that an individual that the president wants is the person that will win. No. If you do that, the president may have his way. The president and his people may have their way. But the voter will have his way at the end of the day. If an unpopular candidate is forced on the party, because it appears that the party is determined to force an unpopular candidate on everyone. They are determined to pick a candidate through consensus. And we are saying, let these people contest. Why are you trying to force them into a consensus agreement? At least we have 13 of them left now. The PDP presidential primaries was contested by about 13 persons. And everyone did not fall. It was a successful contest. So why is the APC, why is the leadership of the APC afraid of letting this contest happen? After all, it has screened 10 persons out of the race, so the remaining people should be able, they should be able to have a contest between the remaining people, instead of still insisting on some form of a consensus. Consensus is not democracy. It's not democracy.
All right. When His Excellency, when President Muhammad Buhari noticed that why he's watching people break their banks to pay 100 million naira for expression of interest form, interest and nomination form, if a consensus candidate is imposed on the party, what implication do you think this would have? Very briefly, because we're out of time.
If you impose a consensus candidate on the party, you are going to give the PDP an easy ride to the presidency. To force an unpopular, except if the consensus candidate is the strongest of them all. If the consensus candidate is not the strongest, if the strongest is not allowed to win, then they are sowing the seeds of discord and dismemberment of the party. Many people have predicted that the APC will not survive the post-Buhari era. We are seeing signs now that the party is bent on destroying itself. Huh?
If you can hear me, what makes an aspirant the strongest by your own parameters, by your own estimation?
The strongest.
Who can we describe as the strongest among them?
The strongest aspirant is the one who has the overwhelming support of the of the delegates. Is the candidate that has the most support from the delegates. And in my view, that is the candidate that should become the standard bearer of the party. Anything less than that, if a candidate, if an aspirant sees clearly that you have cheated him, you forced him to step down for somebody not as strong as he is, his own supporters in anger will work against the party. It has happened in many states, in this same party, in this same APC, because they are fond of doing things like this, going against democratic norms to produce candidates that are not good enough to win election for them. So once they escape scrutiny, once they become the standard bearer of the party, then to win the national election becomes a big problem. So I just hope that this time around they will find the right candidate, and that right candidate has to be the most popular of them all, because it is the candidate that is the most popular that you can sell to the voter. If you cannot sell a candidate that is not popular to the voter, you can't simply sell a candidate because the president wants that candidate. This same president in 2011 had his candidates rejected in Kano and Katsina. So they told the president, you cannot pick a governor for us. So in the Kano governorship election and the Katsina governorship election, President Buhari's choices were rejected by the people. Because as the leader of the CPC, he forced his candidates on those two state chapters, and the people rejected the candidate or the president. So they may like the president, but it doesn't mean that the president has the right to do what he likes. So this can happen again. History may repeat itself. If the president and his minders force someone on the party, then other people, aggrieved persons, will work against the party, and the party will be defeated by Atiku. Atiku is already very strong. So whoever is going to defeat Atiku must be very popular and must be the kind of person that the party members will rally around. Party members will not rally around an unpopular person. And this is why I've been warning them that they have to allow the process to prevail. They have to allow the most popular of those aspirants to emerge at the end of the day. They must not fiddle with the electoral process. They must not force consensus down the throats of everyone, because it always ends in agony. And if the party goes ahead to unilaterally pick a candidate, then they should be ready to lose. It's as simple as that.
Well, it remains to be seen, because a lot of people actually, I'm trying to look for the comment of the YouTube channel where someone described President Muhammad Buhari, saying that President Muhammad Buhari has been described as a Democrat. So it now remains to be seen how democratic he actually is. That's based on one of the comments by viewers on YouTube. Finally, we're actually out of time, but I wanted to touch on the issue of the Otinachi's husband, where court has ordered the remand of Otinachi's husband in Kuje prison, but he insisted remains innocent and was not given fair hearing. What do you make of this? Very briefly, because we're out of time.
Yes, let the law take its course. Let the prosecution happen. One thing is certain. Osinachi's husband, from the evidence, from all the circumstantial evidence available, was a wife beater, was a violent husband, and so many people, including members of the family, attest to the fact that he was always beating his wife. He denied his wife even access to even professional fees that were due to her. And the children also told the Minister of Women Affairs that their father was extremely violent to their mother. So the police already have some pieces of evidence here and there, but it's still early days. They have to prove conclusively that it caused the death of the woman. At this stage, the autopsy, I'm sure, will be brought to court, and the evidence gleaned from the autopsy will determine the decision of the judge in the final analysis. So I just want the trial to go on, and the trial should be concluded in record time. We waste too much time trying people in our country. It should be concluded quickly so that if he is guilty, then he faces the long arm of the law and an example can be served. We need to be able to learn lessons from what happened. To lose a woman in that manner is extremely painful. And as I've said before, no woman deserves to die in her matrimonial home. Once you are dealing with a very violent husband, find your way out of that relationship. If you die, the world will go on. This idea of saying, oh, we have to, we cannot get out of a relationship, it is a taboo to get out of a marriage, is wrong. Only the living can enjoy marriage. So it's a lesson that when you are going through violence, you've got to get out of the relationship. It's unfortunate, but I trust the judiciary that they will be able to do justice to this matter, and they should do it quickly so that we can know whether the young man was guilty or not.
All right. Well, we actually done, but let me quickly take one or two comments before we call it a wrap. Anthony says, will Peter Obi and Shore support making government account public? If not, do not trust anybody in Nigeria. Fabian Akaide says, okay. T-Money says, it's only Tinubu that can defeat Atiku. Bounty, oh no, I can't take things, you can't talk about Nigeria in that regard. And Fabian Akaide is saying, we need to take power from the politicians and Godfather. T-Money says, Tinubu is most popular with experience. Emmanuel Raymond, Tony Oluseun says, Tinubu is most popular with experience. Kunle Iman said, you're telling us now that the party is the most popular in the, that Tinubu is the most popular in the AP. I think so many people actually, okay, God not on the Urban Nation, no going back. There's so many comments actually here, and I see that the stakes are actually high. But then we need to go. There's so much that Vicky can react to here, but we actually need to go. And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analysis, as always, BKO.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll do this again next week.
God willing. By then, the coast will be clear, and the cloud will be clear for us to, do more analysis about how the primary actually will go come Monday and Tuesday. And that's thanks to you to our audience for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. I'm Ibrahim Sheikha. See you again next edition. Bye for now.